At 3:42 a.m., the walls of the field hospital shook. The generator buzzed. Dust fell from the ceiling. Inside, chaos was building outside. But inside, Sergeant Ava Lawson didn't flinch. She set down her coffee, glanced at the trauma bay monitors, and moved like she owned the room. For the past 7 months, the Navy SEALs stationed at Forward Operating Base Kestrel had called her their contract nurse. Polite, competent, unobtrusive, a civilian collecting hazard pay. They had no idea what she had been trained to do, what she had survived, or how lethal she could be. And soon, they would find out the hard way. 6 months earlier, Ava stood in her one-bedroom apartment in Charlotte, North Carolina, folding the same 3 t-shirts into a faded green duffel bag she had packed since turning 18. The apartment wasn't lived in. It was staged, sterile, functional. A single bookshelf held trauma medicine textbooks, a well-thumbed Marine Corps manual, and a photo of 6 young women in desert camouflage smiling in a dusty Afghan village. Only 4 of them were still alive. On the nightstand beside the photo sat a black memorial bracelet, stainless steel engraved with a name, a date, and GPS coordinates. CPL Megan Trent, USMC, the 11th of July 2017, Helmand Province, Afghanistan. Ava slid the bracelet onto her wrist. It clicked against the bone, a sound she had carried with her for 9 years, a constant reminder of promises kept and debts owed. One more. She whispered to the empty apartment. She was 36. Hair tied back so tight it would survive a helicopter ride. Eyes gray-green, changing color with the light. Hands calloused, fast, precise. Scars that told stories no one dared ask about. She moved with an economy of motion that people misread as laziness, until they saw her in action. Ava grew up in Asheville, North Carolina. Quiet childhood, father fixed trucks, mother taught school. College wasn't in the cards. The military was the escape hatch. She enlisted in the United States Marine Corps at 18, trained as an 0311 rifleman, and later selected for the Lioness program, one of the first initiatives to embed female Marines with infantry patrols in Afghanistan. 3 combat deployments, 180 patrols, 23 firefights, a Bronze Star for Valor, a dead best friend. 10 years later, she left as a staff sergeant. Using her GI Bill, she earned a nursing degree and spent 2 years in trauma at a civilian hospital in Charlotte. 2 years of fluorescent lights, endless paperwork, and patients who didn't understand the speed of a Marine's hands. Then Aegis Medical Solutions called. Trauma nurse needed at a forward operating base in East Africa. Counter-terrorism operations. 12 months hazard pay. She said yes before they finished the sentence. Her apartment emptied, her duffel packed. Ava drove to the small airfield, leaving behind the life she had tried and failed to fit into. Civilian life had always felt like shoes 2 sizes too small. Forward Operating Base Kestrel sat in a flat expanse of dust and rocks. HESCO barriers, concertina wire, tactical operations center, and a small trauma facility. Ava's home for the next 7 months, a shipping container converted into a fully functional trauma bay. Navy trauma surgeons, corpsmen, and anesthesiologists worked beside her. But the operators didn't know the truth. She wore civilian scrubs, didn't eat in the DFAC, didn't talk about the past. Ava Lawson, the contract nurse, polite, competent, forgettable. And she liked it that way. Her duffel bag was ready, her bracelet warm on her wrist. She walked to the trauma bay as if nothing outside mattered. But the intelligence reports had been troubling. Foot traffic near the perimeter. Unusual movements at night. She read them quietly each morning, noting patterns the operators didn't care to notice. She slept in the trauma bay now, closer to her patients, closer to what might matter most. One of the corpsmen, Petty Officer 3rd Class Dylan Mercer, 22 years old, 4 months into his first deployment, was bright, but raw. Ava saw herself in him at 19, eager, terrified, capable of everything and nothing at the same time. She taught him small things at first, how to pack hemostatic gauze, how to read a patient's color before monitors caught up, the sound difference between a tension pneumothorax and a simple collapsed lung. One mistake, and someone died. The SEAL platoon leader, Senior Chief Garrett Voss, 14 years in the Navy, 11 as a SEAL, was a predator in human form. He didn't trust contractors, didn't trust her, and Ava didn't argue. She let her actions speak. One night, an operator returned with a gunshot wound to the upper arm. Ava stabilized him in under 20 minutes, packed the wound, started a transfusion, prepped him for medevac. Voss watched silently, skeptical. Her work flawless, the operator survived. The lesson: actions outweighed assumptions. Outside, the East African stars glittered impossibly. Ava touched her bracelet. "I'll keep them alive," she whispered. She remembered the friends lost, the promises made, the weight of responsibility. This was her world now, a place where calm competence met the chaos of war. And soon that calm would be tested, because nobody knew the full truth. Not the SEALs, not the corpsmen, not even Voss. She wasn't just a nurse, she was a Marine, and the field hospital was about to become her battlefield. The desert wind whipped through the base, rattling loose panels and carrying the distant echo of vehicles over the sand. Inside the trauma bay, Ava worked meticulously, checking IV lines, adjusting monitors, and cataloging supplies. Every movement precise, every glance alert. The quiet calm of the night made the slightest sound stand out: a distant vehicle engine, a shift in sand outside the barriers, the soft scuff of boots against concrete. Petty Officer Mercer hovered near the med table, nervously adjusting his gloves. "Ma'am, did you see the patrol report? Movement east of Perimeter 2? His voice trembled slightly. Ava didn't look up. "I saw it." Her tone was flat but controlled. She finished prepping a med kit, then finally turned, eyes scanning him like a hawk. "You'll be fine. Stay calm. Follow procedure. Don't imagine threats where they aren't, but stay aware." Mercer swallowed hard. He wanted reassurance. Ava gave him instruction instead, the kind that saves lives in moments when fear alone would fail. Outside, lights blinked sporadically across the perimeter. Voss's SEAL team was running exercises, low, silent movements, checking blind spots, reviewing security procedures. They were elite, trained to kill, but they underestimated one element: Ava's vigilance. 7 months in, she had memorized the subtle cues of a potential breach. A truck idling too long, a shadow moving against the pattern of patrols, footprints that didn't belong. The operators relied on intelligence reports. Ava relied on instinct, and instinct rarely lied. She moved to the communications console and checked the satellite feeds. Nothing. But the feed didn't catch everything. The desert had ways of hiding things, and danger had a way of creeping in when least expected. "Why don't you just let the operators handle it?" Mercer asked, hesitating. Ava's eyes locked on his, gray-green, sharp as a blade. "Because if they fail, they don't get a second chance. I do." Mercer didn't reply. He couldn't. She had that effect on people, the combination of quiet authority and undeniable skill. Hours passed. The wind grew stronger. The hum of the generator deepened into a steady vibration. Then, faintly, a new sound, a soft crunch over sand. Distant, but rhythmic. Intentional. Footsteps, maybe, or wheels. Someone was approaching. Ava didn't panic. She slid a hand into the pocket of her scrub top, fingers brushing the handle of a small tactical knife she always kept hidden. She moved to the window overlooking the perimeter. There, the shadow of a figure crouched near the far barrier. And then another, and another. A dozen, 20, too many to be coincidence. "Sir," Mercer whispered, his voice barely audible, That's not patrol movement." Ava nodded once, calmly. "Get the med packs ready. Stay inside. If anything happens, you follow procedure exactly. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am," Mercer said, but his hands shook. She watched as the intruders adjusted positions, moving with military precision. Not civilians, not locals. Armed, organized, trained, and deadly. Inside, Ava checked the trauma bay doors, locked down the cabinets, prepared defensive positions. Her scrub sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms etched with faint scars from deployments long ago. They weren't just marks, they were lessons. Voss entered silently, catching the subtle tension. "What is it?" Ava didn't hesitate. "We have company. They're armed, moving fast, likely here within 5 minutes. Voss's eyes narrowed. Elite operator instincts kicking in. But even he couldn't anticipate the magnitude of what Ava could do. He assumed she was just a nurse. He assumed wrong. Get the perimeter secured, Ava continued, but don't engage them unless absolutely necessary. We need intel, we need control, and we need survival. Outside, the wind shifted. The attackers used the sand like smoke, approaching with lethal caution. One misstep and the alarm would trigger too early. Ava anticipated patterns. They expected hesitation. They would find none. Mercer stepped back, eyes wide. "Ma'am, what do we do if they breach?" Ava's voice was steady, almost serene. "Then we fight, and we survive. Because if I've learned anything, hesitation kills." Her mind replayed scenarios she had trained for, every ambush, every breach, every firefight in her past deployments. The principles were the same: control the entry points, maintain line of sight, neutralize threats, protect the wounded, extract safely. She checked her kit again. Adrenaline injectors, hemostatic agents, trauma scissors, tactical knife, and a small pistol concealed beneath her scrubs. She didn't intend to use it unless absolutely necessary, but she knew every inch of its weight, every sound it made when cocked. Then the first shot rang out, a sharp, deafening crack that ricocheted through the compound. Lights flickered, dust exploded in the corridor. Voss reacted instantly, signaling his team, drawing weapons, moving to cover. But it was Ava who moved first, ducking low, securing Mercer and assessing the trajectory of the bullets. Calm, calculated, precise. She whispered, "Follow me. Move slow. Eyes sharp." And with that, the field hospital became a chessboard, and Ava a queen moving with lethal intent. Outside, the attackers surged, but they hadn't counted on a nurse who was also a Marine. They hadn't counted on instincts honed by firefights, on precision moves made under pressure, on a mind that never panicked. Inside, Ava's hand hovered near the medbay entrance. She could see them, hear them, anticipate them. Every second mattered. Every decision meant life or death. And for the first time in months, the quiet hum of the hospital was replaced with the rhythm of an incoming storm. The calm before the breach had ended. The first blast of glass shattered like a scream across the quiet night. Dust and shards rained onto the linoleum floor as Ava spun toward the sound. Her eyes sharp, instincts primed. "Go!" she barked to Mercer, yanking him down behind the med table. He scrambled, heart pounding, clutching med packs as if they were armor. Outside, the attackers poured through the compound, moving in coordinated chaos. Their boots kicked sand across the thresholds, their weapons raised, every motion precise. It wasn't an ambush, it was a storm. Ava's gaze scanned the room, cataloging escape routes, cover points, and lines of fire. Her movements were quick, deliberate, almost dance-like. Every step she took calculated for efficiency and survival. The first intruder reached the hall. He froze for a fraction too long. That was all Ava needed. She lunged, sliding low across the floor, her knife flashing. The man barely had time to react before she knocked him off balance, twisting the knife hand and forcing him to the ground. Mercer gasped. "Ma'am, you're—" "Quiet," she hissed, rolling to her feet and moving toward the next entry. The second attacker hesitated, then fired. Bullets ricocheted off walls, pinging metal cabinets. Ava dropped low, sliding behind a prep table, her mind running faster than her pulse. She returned fire, not with her pistol, but with calculated strikes that disarmed and incapacitated. One sweep of the arm, a push against a shoulder, a precise kick to the knee. Voss's SEAL team surged through the opposite wing, guns raised, tactical movements seamless, but even trained operators found themselves slightly stunned by Ava's agility. She moved like a ghost, unseen and unstoppable, neutralizing threats faster than they could react. The compound erupted into chaos. Alarms blared, red lights strobed, and the attackers realized they were facing more than they bargained for. Ava ducked behind a gurney as a hail of bullets tore through the hallway. Her heart raced, but her hands were steady. "Medic!" one of the attackers shouted, distracted. Ava used the moment, sliding past him, tripping his feet, and using his momentum to push him face first into a steel cart. He groaned, incapacitated. Mercer peeked over the table wide-eyed. How are you doing this?" Ava didn't answer. She simply kept moving. One target neutralized. Two more closing in. She ducked, spun, and with a swift strike to the arm, knocked the weapon from a man's hand. Then, with a snap of her wrist, she delivered a crushing elbow to his chest. He went down, coughing. Voss, perimeter, she barked over the chaos, voice cutting through the storm. Secure the east wing. Keep them from reaching the patients. Voss signaled, moving with his team, but Ava stayed focused on the immediate threats. She saw the pattern. The attackers weren't just moving randomly, they were coordinated, trying to flush them out, test defenses, break morale. She anticipated their moves before they made them. Every doorway, every shadow, every movement, she predicted, intercepted, and neutralized. In the trauma bay, a single shot rang out, striking near the med table. Mercer flinched, sliding behind Ava instinctively. "Stay down," she ordered. Her hand shot out, gripping his shoulder, steadying him. Then she moved, twisting past the nearest attacker, knocking him into a stack of supplies. Cans clanged, equipment scattered, chaos multiplying. Ava didn't pause. She moved from shadow to shadow, clearing rooms, isolating attackers, using the environment to her advantage. Shelves, tables, gurneys, all became barriers, traps, and weapons in her hands. Outside, more attackers arrived, alerted by the noise. They hadn't accounted for Ava's speed and unpredictability. A man rushed the main entrance, and she met him head-on, twisting his wrist, flipping him over a table and locking him down. Her breathing remained steady, heart racing, yes, but control was everything. One misstep and death came too easily. Voss entered the trauma bay, gun raised. "We need evac," he shouted, covering the team's rear. "No," Ava barked. "We clear this wing first. Patients are priority." She dove toward a hallway where shadows flickered and came face to face with two more attackers. Her movements were fluid, almost cinematic. Block, jab, elbow, sweep. They went down in seconds. Mercer's jaw dropped, eyes wide. But he didn't speak. Fear was rooted, awe replacing panic. Ava reached a door leading to the patient wing. Voices inside, the patients, nurses, and an EMT were terrified. She opened the door, ushering them inside a secure room. "Everyone down. Stay quiet. Follow my lead." A scream echoed from the other side of the compound. More attackers were forcing entry into the west wing. Ava's gaze hardened. She could feel every second of time stretch, every threat sharpen. She glanced at Mercer. "Ready?" He nodded, trembling, but he was ready. Ava smiled faintly, not for reassurance. She didn't need to, but because fear sharpened focus, and focus sharpened survival. Then, a grenade, a flash, sparks, smoke, fire erupting in the corridor. Ava dove behind the nearest heavy counter, shielded the patients with her body, and counted seconds. Timing, she thought. Timing is everything. The blast cleared, debris settling. She moved instantly, scanning for live threats. Two attackers dazed, one crawling, another trying to reload. Swiftly, she dispatched them, one precise strike after another, leaving them incapacitated, breathing but unable to fight. Mercer's hands shook as he watched. I didn't know nurses could do that." Ava didn't reply. She was already moving, already thinking, already anticipating the next wave. By now, Voss's team had consolidated, covering exits, moving wounded operators out, and engaging remaining attackers. The compound had become a battlefield, a mix of medical chaos and military precision. And through it all, Ava was the fulcrum. Calm, lethal, unyielding. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, the attackers began retreating, casualties mounting, coordination breaking down. Voss and his SEALs regrouped, securing the perimeter, checking for survivors. Ava stood amidst the debris, the chaos, the storm of dust and blood. Her scrubs were torn, sleeves rolled up, sweat and grime streaking her face, but her gaze remained steady, focused. The patients were safe, the med bay intact, and no one under her protection had died. Mercer approached, still shaken. "Ma'am, you saved everyone." Ava's expression softened slightly. "We saved them. Together. But this isn't over. Not by a long shot." The alarm still blared, red lights painting the walls. Outside, the desert night hummed, carrying distant sounds of reinforcements and retreating attackers. Ava wiped blood from her arm, checked her med kits, and scanned every shadow. The storm had passed, but the war was far from over. And for Ava, every heartbeat now carried a simple truth. In the desert, survival wasn't given. It was taken, and she would take it for anyone in her care. The storm of bullets, screams, and chaos had faded, leaving a silence that felt almost unreal. Dust hung in the air, catching the harsh fluorescent lights above the med bay. Broken glass glittered on the floor like tiny crystals of violence, while overturned carts and scattered supplies told the story of the night's battle. Ava leaned against a steel counter, her body trembling not from fear, but from adrenaline finally ebbing. Her hands were slick with sweat and streaked with blood, some hers, some others. She closed her eyes for a moment, drawing in a shaky breath. "Status report," Voss barked, moving past her eyes scanning the wreckage for any lingering threat. "Secure," Ava replied, voice low but steady. "All patients accounted for. No casualties in the wing." Mercer stumbled forward, pale, his hands trembling as he clutched a first aid kit. I can't believe it. They came in like a storm, and you." Ava's gaze met his. "I told you, stay sharp. Stay calm. Together we survive." The sound of radio chatter broke the tension. Reinforcements were en route, helicopters buzzing in the distance. Voss signaled, coordinating evacuation and triage, moving wounded attackers under control. Ava's mind, however, didn't rest. She walked the halls, checking locked rooms, peering behind debris, scanning every shadow. Something in her gut told her this was just the beginning. "Ma'am," Mercer said, voice small, "why would anyone attack a medical compound?" Ava didn't answer immediately. Her eyes narrowed as she processed. The attackers hadn't been random. They'd moved with precision, coordinated like a professional unit. Not just mercenaries. Someone had trained them, given them intelligence. "They wanted more than chaos," she finally said. "They wanted us distracted, vulnerable. They wanted to see what we would protect and how far we'd go." A tremor ran through Mercer. "You think? It's not over." Ava shook her head. "It's never over." The patients emerged from their hiding places, faces pale, eyes wide with lingering terror. Ava guided them gently, reassuring with calm authority. Children clung to nurses, tears streaking faces while parents hugged them tight, whispering words of relief and fear. One little boy, no older than 7, looked up at Ava. "You're like a superhero," he whispered. Ava's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Just someone trying to keep people safe." Mercer looked at her, awe and disbelief warring in his expression. I don't even know how to explain this to anyone. You handled all of that, alone." "Not alone," Ava said, glancing at Voss and his team moving wounded attackers into restraints. "Together." Outside, the desert night was calm again, almost mockingly peaceful. The air smelled of burnt dust and gunpowder. Helicopters hummed in the distance, carrying reinforcements, medical supplies, and evacuation teams. But Ava knew the calm was fragile. She walked to the windows, looking out at the barren landscape. Somewhere out there, the masterminds behind the attack were watching, planning, waiting. They had made their point. Even here in the middle of nowhere, nothing was safe. Inside, the med bay was slowly returning to a semblance of order. Voss and his team debriefed, coordinating with authorities, cataloging attackers, and securing the compound. Ava returned to the patient wing, checking on the children, calming panicked parents, ensuring no one overlooked. A sharp knock at the door startled her. One of the SEALs entered, face grim. "Ma'am, we found something," he said, holding a small device black and sleek. "Looks like a tracker or remote detonation system. Could have been used for something worse." Ava's eyes narrowed. She took the device, inspecting it with careful fingers. Her heart sank slightly. This was no random attack. They had resources, tech, and intent. Whoever orchestrated this had more on the horizon. "Mercer," she said, her voice firm, "help me analyze this. Now." He nodded, anxiety mixing with awe. Yes, ma'am. As they worked, the patients gradually regained composure, thanks to Ava's calm presence. Nurses whispered words of encouragement, EMTs checked vital signs, and Voss coordinated perimeter sweeps. But every shadow, every sound, put Ava on edge. She couldn't shake the feeling that the night wasn't truly over. Hours later, the last of the wounded were stabilized, evac coordinated, and the attackers restrained. The med bay was a scarred monument to chaos and survival, but standing amidst the wreckage, Ava felt a grim satisfaction. They had survived, but she knew this was only the beginning. Mercer looked exhausted, sitting on a bench. I keep thinking about tonight, about you, how you handled everything. I mean, you were incredible. Ava crouched beside him, voice soft but unwavering. In situations like this, courage isn't optional. We adapt, or we die. Remember that. And don't ever let fear stop you from acting. He swallowed hard. I won't forget. I can't. Suddenly, an alert buzzed on Ava's phone. A secure message, encrypted, origin unknown. She opened it carefully. Her eyes scanned the text. Coordinates, threats, and a single line she didn't like. We know who you are. We're coming for more. Prepare. Ava's jaw tightened. She closed the phone, her mind racing. Mercer leaned in. What is it? Someone bigger than these attackers, she said. Someone who wants a war. Voss approached, expression grave. We'll reinforce. Night watch, perimeter, everything. We're not letting them slip past us again. Ava nodded. Good, but reinforcement alone won't stop them. We need intelligence, strategy, foresight. She glanced around the med bay, at the patients, at the exhausted team, at the mess left in the wake of survival. Each face reminded her of the stakes, not abstract, not distant, but real. Lives depended on every decision, every step, every action. The desert wind howled outside, carrying sand and faint echoes of distant movement. Ava took a deep breath, steadying herself. She could feel the tension coil like a spring, ready to snap, but she welcomed it, because in this world, in this war, only the vigilant survived. And Ava? She was just getting started. The night ended in quiet preparation. Supplies were counted, weapons checked, surveillance updated. Voss and his team rotated for rest, but Ava remained on watch, scanning the horizon, plotting the next move. Mercer joined her, less in fear now and more in resolve. Whatever comes next, he said, voice firm. We're ready, right? Ava's eyes met his, unwavering. We have to be, because they're coming, and we won't be caught off guard again. Outside, the desert stretched into darkness, endless and unforgiving. Inside, the med bay stood scarred but unbroken. And Ava? She was already planning for the next battle, the next threat, the next storm. The desert night stretched like a black void beyond the compound walls, but Ava's mind was sharper than ever. Every sound, every shadow, every whisper of movement outside was amplified in her senses. She crouched by the surveillance monitors, tracing anomalies, scanning for the enemy. Mercer hovered nearby, exhaustion written on his face, yet determination in his eyes. Do you think they'll come again tonight? They will, Ava said without hesitation. And this time they won't just test us. They'll strike with everything they have. Her gaze hardened as she reviewed the last encrypted message. The coordinates were specific, precise. Someone was orchestrating a direct assault, not just on the compound, but on her team, the patients, and anyone she protected. Voss, she called, signaling him to join, prepare for immediate engagement, full lockdown, no one in, no one out, except for us. Voss nodded, rallying his team. Everyone in position, eyes sharp, weapons ready. The desert silence was broken by the faint hum of engines. Drones, possibly scouts. Ava activated the perimeter alarms. Lights flashed across the compound, reflecting off dust particles, creating a surreal strobe effect. Here they come, she muttered. The first wave hit like a thunderclap. Shadows darted through the outer fences, armed and relentless. Ava, Voss, and Mercer moved swiftly, coordinating with precision. The team's earlier battle experience was evident. They anticipated the enemy's tactics. cutting off entry points, securing vulnerable patients. Ava's hands moved with lethal efficiency. Every step, every order was measured. She guided Mercer behind cover, instructing him on strategic points to defend, while Voss neutralized threats with professional precision. Suddenly, a deafening explosion shook the ground. Sand erupted like smoke, obscuring vision. Ava's heart skipped a beat, but she kept moving, signaling her team. "Keep formation! Don't break ranks!" Through the chaos, she spotted the mastermind, the one orchestrating the attacks. He was silhouetted against the dust storm, commanding his squad with cold, ruthless intent. Ava's pulse quickened, but her focus sharpened. She knew that stopping him would end this nightmare. She moved with Mercer at her side, stealth guiding them closer. The mastermind didn't see them, absorbed in issuing orders. Ava drew her weapon, calculated, every muscle taut. "On my mark," she whispered. The moment was tense, seconds stretching like hours. Then she surged forward, precision and speed combined. Mercer provided cover fire, giving her the opening she needed. Ava disarmed the mastermind in a single fluid motion, her training and instinct merging perfectly. He froze, eyes wide, realizing too late that he was defeated. You can't. You already lost," Ava said, voice calm but lethal. "This ends now." Voss's team quickly restrained the remaining attackers, neutralizing the threat entirely. The dust settled, engines and alarms fading, leaving only the faint hum of the desert night. Ava took a deep breath, adrenaline still coursing, and looked around at the med bay, scars of battle everywhere, yet the patients were safe, alive, and intact. Relief washed over her in a rare, fleeting wave. Mercer approached, awe and disbelief mingling. I can't believe it. You stopped them. You actually stopped them." Ava lowered her weapon, shoulders sagging slightly. "We stopped them, together. Never forget that. Every life here mattered, and we protected them. That's what matters." The team slowly regrouped, exhaustion heavy but tempered by triumph. Nurses checked on patients, EMTs organized supplies, and Voss debriefed the restrained attackers. But Ava's eyes stayed on the horizon, wary. "Whoever sent these people," she said, voice low, "they're not done. But right now, we've won, and we'll use this time to prepare, to protect, and to strike back if needed." Mercer nodded, finally understanding. "You're remarkable. I've never seen anyone like you in my life." Ava offered a small, tired smile. "Remarkable? No. Determined, focused, ready. That's what matters when lives depend on you." Outside, dawn broke over the desert. Golden light spilled across the med bay, reflecting off broken glass and dust, casting everything in a surreal, almost sacred glow. The world was battered, yes, but alive. Voss clapped her shoulder. "You led us through hell, Ava. You saved lives tonight. Everyone knows it." She nodded, surveying her team. Each person carried their own marks of the battle. Cuts, bruises, exhaustion. But each was alive. Each had survived. That was victory enough for now. Finally, Ava walked to the patient wing. Children clung to nurses, some finally sleeping after a night of terror. Parents whispered thanks, tears streaking faces. She paused by the little boy who had called her a superhero. He smiled weakly, eyes shining. "You really are a superhero," he said again. Ava knelt, meeting his gaze. "No," she said softly. "I'm someone who never gives up, and neither should you." As the sun rose higher, casting warmth across the compound, Ava knew the battle wasn't over. Not entirely, but in this moment she had claimed victory. She had protected lives, saved her team, and proven that courage, focus, and determination could turn the tide even against impossible odds. And as the desert wind carried the faint scent of dust and freedom, Ava prepared for whatever came next. Because she knew one truth carved deep into her heart. Heroes aren't born. They're forged in the fire of chaos, and they rise when the world needs them most. Did Ava really just outsmart impossible odds? Comment below what you would have done in her place. And if you thought that battle was intense, hit that like button, subscribe for more heart-pounding stories, and tap the bell icon so you never miss a moment of the action. Plus, share this video with someone who loves insane plot twists and real hero moments. Trust me, they'll thank you later. Who do you think will strike next? And will Ava survive the next challenge? Tell us your predictions in the comments. We're watching and we might feature the best ones in the next story.